Hi, good morning. It's Gene from maverickstar Observatory. Guys, in this video we're going to be talking about something really serious. I think it warrants, a video dedicated just to this. But before we get into it, I want to just say, you know what guys, we've raised £54 in 10 days of November for this observatory, and I've cut it right back to the bare nothing now. We just simply can't survive on those sorts of funds at the observatory. And I have tried over the last 10 years to keep it online, by studying electronics, programming, electronic engineering, to build the equipment that we need to answer these questions. But we are scraping now the bottom of the barrel, and we really need people to come forward and help and support. So the links are down there in the description. I will mention it just once more at the end of this video, but please don't be one of these people that just hear this and walk away. Help support this observatory, and we will get that information to you. What we're about to show you today cannot be answered by NASA, because what they tell us is 180 degrees from what is actually the case. And the truth is, solar physicists don't know as much about our sun as what they're telling us. And for some reason, what is taking place now with our sun and the regions where the sunspots are forming is completely abnormal. Let's just say that. So let's get in with it. You can see the sunspot numbered region 2781 on the disk, and you can see it is around about 50 to 60 degrees south. The big point about this is that you only get sunspots forming, and NASA have even come out and told us this. You only get sunspots form in these regions during solar maximum. We are at the moment in solar minimum. I will bring up the chart to prove that. This is what I want to do. I want to deliver facts based on evidence, and I will provide the evidence of what NASA say and where the sunspots are today, so that you can see that something isn't right about the very thing in the center of our solar system. And it's really important, because if something is changing with our sun, we need to be concerned. And I'm not just talking about solar maximums, solar minimums and grand solar minimums. Something else is taking place with our sun, and we need to be concerned about it. I really believe that is the case, so let's get on with it. Let's have a look at the map of where NASA claim the sunspots should be during solar minimum. But before we do that, let's just have a look at where we are in the cycle. So as you can see, we're at the end of solar cycle 24, and we're using halfway NASA's MSFC's data right here to show you that where we are in the cycle according to NASA. And we're going to use all their work to prove what they're saying is not quite true. So we're at the end of the cycle. We should be in solar minimum right now. That means that the sunspots should be equatorial. So I'm going to run this short clip for us guys, but what I want you to see is that on the left we see solar minimum, and obviously it's not illustrating the sunspots locations very well on this image, but a little bit later on in the clip I'm going to run, you will see clearly where the sunspots are during solar minimum and solar maximum. So I'm going to run the video now so that you can see that. And remember, this is NASA's information. You can see top left hand corner. So we're at solar maximum now, going into solar minimum, and you'll see that the sunspots are equatorial, like I say. Solar maximum again, they're at 30 degrees north, 30 degrees south. So as you can see, something is clearly not right with our sun, and you have seen compelling evidence that shows that. And this is rare guys, because I don't know anyone else that has been talking about the sun's disk and the sunspots and grand solar minimum that has brought this to anybody's attention. I've used NASA's own words and work and evidence to prove to you that there is something clearly not right with our sun right now, irregardless of the dwindling sunspots over the last 33 years of the last 3 solar cycles. We've seen the chart, they're dropping off. The numbers are going lower and lower and lower. We don't know whether we're going to really have a lot of activity during solar cycle 25, even if that begins. But the main point is this, is that the solar physicists at NASA are being silent about this very fact that I'm bringing to your attention right now. It is very, very important. This proves more than anything else that there is something completely abnormal about our sun's behaviour, and this is the very thing that drives our solar system, that keeps our planet habitable. If there is something building up with our sun and its activity right now, then we need to be very cautious at this point in time as we plan for the future. I want to just bring out a trend as well, and I think this is equally important because we have tipped the scale since the solar cycle maximum of 24. As you can see, I've added some arrows, blue indicating solar cycle 22 and solar cycle 23, and what they're pointing at, as you can see, is the cosmic ray influx. But if you look at the end of during solar cycle 24, you will see that even during solar maximum, it wasn't strong enough, the heliosphere, to push out that cosmic radiation, which means we've also entered a new territory right now because of the sun's level of activity with regards to sunspots. So not only are we getting way too little sunspots to inflate the heliosphere and push out that galactic and solar the galactic radiation out of our solar system, we are getting a lot more enter our atmosphere during a time where we are going through a magnetic reversal on our planet. I want to talk about a theory, and I think it's worth trying to give an explanation as to what is going on. And to do that, we'll have a look at the last 3 solar cycles and the diminishing activity over that period of time, and then give perhaps a theory on what is taking place, because we are in the dark here. There is no scientist coming forward and trying to make an explanation as to what is going on with our sun. So obviously NASA are wrong in what they have predicted with regards to where the sunspots lie. But that is one thing, let's put that on the side. Let's just take it that they are not aware of what is taking place with regards to the mechanics of what is happening right now. So they don't know what completely is causing the sun to behave what it is doing like so. So my theory is pretty a simple one. What we're seeing is obviously something slow down. We can see the activity dropping off at every solar cycle, and we've got to a point where cosmic rays are no longer being pushed out of our solar system. So what is going on? Well, I think my theory comes from an experiment that was carried out in the 1940s, I believe, maybe even before that, which involved 2 atomic clocks. And what that was is one was put on an aircraft, the other one was left on the tarmac. One that was on the aircraft flew around for around 400-500 miles an hour for a series of amount of hours. When they was put back on the tarmac together, one had advanced on the ground more than the other one, which means that if you are travelling at speed, then time is obviously slowing down. So my theory is that that star that we're looking at and enjoying the benefits of every day has exploded already, and exploded probably millions of years ago, and it exploded at such a rate that it travelled the explosion faster than the speed of light. We've already proved that everything that travels faster than the speed of light obviously begins to start to slow down rapidly at that speed. We proved that theory with that experiment with the 2 atomic clocks. So my theory is that when we're waiting for stars to actually supernova, they'll only supernova when they slow down at a rate which then the explosion travels from the object or the explosive region. So if we look at what's happened right now on our sun, it's already exploded. It just hasn't travelled outwards yet. And I think it stands more plausible than the standard model of how our sun works. They believe that it's run by nuclear fusion, and this is starting to wear thin now with physicists and scientists, because if that was the case, we would detect more neutrinos coming off those nuclear reactions that are taking place, and we simply don't account for all the we don't have all the neutrinos to state that that is the way the sun's working. So that model, I believe, should be pushed aside and another one accepted. I'm not saying that my model or my theory should be accepted. It just makes more sense, especially when we are talking about what is taking place at the photosphere of the sun. And this is a region of the sun which is actually in the atmosphere of the sun, if you like, and it is a hotter region than the surface of the sun. So how do you explain that? How do you explain that the sun's atmosphere is actually a lot hotter than the surface, or perhaps even the core? How do you explain that? Well, my theory is, and this is another thing as well about the photosphere, is that this is the exchange border of where actual photons of little light, you know, if you want to call them photoparticles, this is the region of where they leave. And the only reason possibly why they leave at that region of the atmosphere of the sun, or the photosphere, is because they are actually slowing down and able to lose the attraction of the gravity of the sun at that point. I hope you're following me, and I'm not bamboozling you with all these processes that take place, but I think that this stands more to be the case than the one that they are expecting us to now, you know, accept as the standard model. I think that that sun does a lot more than what we actually think it does, and that if we have proven that time and speed affect, the movement of objects, then, you know, we should account that for what is taking place on our sun. The big thing is it's very frightening. You know, if we are moving closer to a point in time where things are slowing down, and this chart shows us something slowing down clearly, we can see it. If my theory is correct, and I really hope it's not, I really, really hope it's not, because if my theory is correct, you know, the activity continues to slow down on the sun, and maybe it does supernova. And I want to just say this, just as much as I've said that our planet can easily look like Mars if we lose our magnetosphere, but our sun can easily explode, just like we have witnessed in other parts of our universe. And maybe that is the mechanics of the way supernovas are triggered, and maybe we might be just witnessing that take place. Now, you've got to remember, this is just a theory, but there is something crazy taking place right now with our sun. That very thing that we take for granted, we don't even notice it while we're eating our bacon sandwiches for breakfast in the morning, because we just take it for granted. It's come up for thousands of years. Our ancient civilizations have enjoyed the sun coming up for that period of time, but we might be witnessing its sell by date. Now, we have seen grand solar minimums happen before, and the sun hasn't exploded. And all this is very new, because we are really documenting things that have never been witnessed before in this period of time, because the technology allows us to peek into these things. And, you know, as time and science goes on, theories will change. And we don't know if this is, grand solar minimum like the one that has happened before during the Maunder minimum times and the Dalton minimum times, or whether this is something completely new. And the reason why I say that is because it is clearly not documented. I would love to think that the sun is going to be around for millions and millions more years, but that isn't proven that that can be the case. What we see is something completely abnormally changing based on the knowledge probably of the last 100 years. And you've got to remember, 100 years ago they weren't as sophisticated as what we are now at making these measurements. So this could be normal, or this could be completely abnormal, and we've got nothing to gauge it in between, simply because the data doesn't extend that far back, and our understanding of our own sun is limited to just best guess and theories. but I've presented a plausible theory in this video for you guys to suggest that something could quite easily be taking place with our sun right now that we expect to be normal, but quite isn't the case. But the main thing is, I suppose, is that you've had a heads up on this. You now know, using NASA's data, that something completely is taking place with our sun, which even they are not aware of, or if they are aware of, then they're simply not allowing the public to know about it. But if you know a reasonable amount of information about the sun, then you can work it out like I have. The sunspots are not in the right place for the period of the cycle that we're in, and that is proven fact. Guys, there's a link down there in the description. I'm hoping that we are going to turn the level of support around from this point on, and we are going to start getting a bit more support from the observatory. We can deliver a whole lot more than what we have already, and remember this always, is that we're proactive. We build and we use the standard scientific model to collect our data using the magnetometers that we have around the world at the moment, and using the Trimag system that we've got to monitor the magnetic North Pole and bring this information to you guys. So I'm just hoping that that warrants a bit of support from you guys. We can't do it any more based on the funds that we're raising right now. So it's time to make a decision. We're going to step up to the line and support, or just watch this fizzle away. And we're seeing way too much of that take place at the moment. I'm hoping you'll support. Links are down there, and I'll say what I usually do. You take care of your loved ones, and as always, bye for now.